Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna try again here. Let's see. We're about to get started. I think it's gonna take just a minute here, but I think Rich is finally in good shape. I'm not exactly sure what happened there, but it does look like his buttons are in a much better situation now. So we are about to have, as I mentioned earlier, this is our first restreamed low percent ice race of this category tournament. Apparently, sign in, and I'm sure someone in chat can tell me. I don't have it pulled up in front of me, but sign in. Whoever sign in's playing right now also ran low percent. Unfortunately, we weren't able to get a restream for them, but this is going to be a lot of fun. Low percent is a really challenging category, but a very cool category. In some ways a simple category, and then in other ways kind of a complex category. But I know Rich and Whewty are both seasoned vets and have done many runs of low ice, so I'm really excited that both of them were game enough to do this, and this should be a good time. And it looks like we are finally off here. Good to see. And we'll get a sync up on these timers here in a little bit. So let me go ahead and start off by giving a very brief explanation of what low percent ice is. Low percent in NTSC, Super Metroid, for a human who is not using a keyboard is 14%. So both of these players will be collecting 14% of the items, and that will be enough to technically get them through a run. There are many ways to do it technically, but this one is the most common, slash competitive leaderboard. And in many ways, even though it's not the friendliest category, it is the most friendly of the low percent. So they're gonna basically rely on their charge beam and their ice beam and a minimal amount of missiles and supers to get through all the boss fights of the game. And it's going to be a good time. So we will talk about the items a little bit more as we get to them. Whewty and Rich already synced up here in the final room, or I guess in the tile room of series. And now heading up to the elevator. Whewty taking a slight lead here. And nicely done. I have brought that up in the SpeedGaming 6 channel about the cropping. I'm not sure how long that will take or if anybody saw my message, but we'll see. We'll hang in there and see what happens. But anyway, the beginning of this run is very similar to, the vast majority of Super Metroid runs. The runners are going to head down, pick up their morphing ball, their alpha missiles. They're going to head back up to get their bombs. Going to grab the Terminator tank, and then they're going to grab the early super missiles. And once they get to Big Pink, that'll be kind of the first place where the run gets a little bit different in terms of item collection. Most of the time, like in any percent and many other categories, you'll end up at one point or another grabbing the charge missiles. You want to avoid those charge missiles in this category because if you grab them, more than likely you're talking about a reset. You're only going to run 10 missiles and 10 supers, and since you have to get over the moat, the vast majority of players are going to try to get over the moat with a horizontal bomb jump or a CWJ, and so you're going to have to pick up that missile pack. So we got to make sure that these guys do not pick up charge missiles, and a lot of people, I can say this for myself as well as others that I have watched, have gone into autopilot, not been thinking about what they're doing, and will just grab those charge missiles out of pure muscle memory, and out of nowhere, you've pretty much invalidated your run. So both of these runners need to be really careful about that. So Rich now takes a slight lead here. A little bit about these runners. This is a match of, unless I am mistaken, players who are both 2-1 in this tournament. Both very quality runners. Rich in particular is someone who I know I've spent a lot of time hanging out with him and speaking with him over the years, and he's very experienced in really all the categories. So I think a tournament like this is like a really good fit for his skill set, because he's one of those players that kind of likes to dabble in a little bit of everything. So low ice is something he's done plenty of, and he's a big fan of the category as well. I know Whewty has been doing a lot of low ice relatively recently, which is cool. And I believe Whewty is playing here on a SNES Classic. I think Richmond is on console, but I could be misremembering. I think actually earlier he loaded off of his SD2. So Whewty getting a nice clean parlor, gonna make up a little bit of time here, and is only barely behind Rich at this point. Going into the bombs location. There was a mention of running 5:15, and all jokes aside, technically, if someone were very skilled at bomb jumping over the moat, they certainly could do that, and I think some people have. However, every time I've kind of considered it and thought about it, I'm fairly confident that that would actually still be slower. It sounds sort of counterintuitive because of having extra supers, but it kind of depends on how you farm those supers, and then other considerations like the Dragon fight, where the vast majority of the damage that you do comes from missiles. So there's a give and take there, but traditionally most people are not gonna bomb jump over the moat to avoid the missiles, so that usually doesn't come up in a run. My assumption would be that, and I could be wrong about this, I've seen some of Whewty's runs, not all of them, and I've seen probably more of Rich's over the years. I know for sure Rich will run Fantoon first, which indicates that his likely route is going to be Kraid second. So Fantoon first, Kraid second. There are many reasons to run Kraid second in this particular category. Technically speaking, like, we're gonna have to get real deep into the theory here. Technically speaking, the fastest route would still be to do like a new route order. Fantoon, Ridley, Kraid, and Dragon. However, there are actually many situations, even if you run that route, where you might actually go slower than Kraid second, and it has to do with the way you pick up items, how much ammo you have, and stuff like that. And honestly, how much you get to farm, what the drops are, not only in Lower Norfair but afterwards. So this run is extremely dependent upon RNG, and once you start pushing into a really high level of consistency and trying to get PBs, a lot of times your PBs will have a little less to do with your overall execution and a little bit more to do with the kind of drops you get. Sometimes a God mode drop run can actually be faster, even with just a sort of decent performance on the speedrun end, than an actual God mode play a run with bad drops. So let's make sure these guys skip this item. Okay, Rich is looking good. Whewty's looking good. All right, let's go. I apologize for my neighbor mowing the yard. There's been no mowing of the yard for a long time, and then of course it happens like right when this race starts. So sorry if you guys hear that in the background. But heading down Green Hills here, and these gentlemen are gonna probably head up. I mentioned earlier, I know Richmond for sure will head to Fantoon. I'm not sure about Whewty. I would imagine he probably will, but technically you do not have to go to Fantoon first. You can run low ice with a Kraid first route for sure, but it does look like Whewty's going up, and we are in good shape. Let's see if these gentlemen can get up the red tower first try. Hey, look at that. Well done to both of them. And look at this sync, ladies and gentlemen. This is exciting. Whewty going for a double D-boost method. Richmond was going to farm. That's very rare. Richmond got hit, almost fell in a plant, but then somehow managed to not fall in the plant and then jump back up. That was very strange. But Whewty picking up his first and only powerbomb pack of the run. Rich right behind him. And now these guys are going to head up and get ready to try to get over the moat. All right, we see a safety save here from both runners, and this actually serves two purposes. Number one, you get the save, and then number two, you get to farm both of these if you want to, or even just one of those cack attacks, which means you either get to fill back up on supers or you might get a little extra energy. I like the call, and both runners are still in good shape in terms of, I don't want to get too technical here, but especially in a race, if you're doing fan tune first, you want to be careful what sort of energy range you're at when you enter the fan tune fight. For both of these players, they could conceivably, unless I'm mistaken here, they could conceivably get hit enough times to finally get into health bomb range. Sometimes you, if you're not careful, you can end up being at a certain energy level where you're not in health bomb range and one hit will still kill you. So looks like both of them are doing good here. All right, Rich is going to hop over to begin with here, I think on his second try. Whewty, come on, buddy. There we go. Nice. I love watching a race with fan tune first, where both runners get over the moat fairly quickly. That's a very tough room filled with a lot of anxiety when you're running, and it's never fun when it's sort of the, one of the primary reasons that you have a gap in a race. So good to see both of them get across, and now they're going to head down and get ready to fight fan tune. Now that I mention it, Whewty is, I don't know, I actually didn't see where he got that extra health, but now Whewty is actually in the bad range of health. It won't matter more than likely. He probably won't take 4 hits anyway, or even if he does, he might get some energy along the way. But technically speaking, if he got hit enough times, he would end up in a range that would not get health bombed, and that could be a bit of a problem. Looks like Rich has an opening mid. One thing you will note is that since they only have 10 missiles, a lot of times runners will be kind of in trouble when it comes to ammo. Like right now, Whewty got a fast, but couldn't do anything because he didn't have any drops. Rich, on the other hand, getting some good drop management here. A lot of times they will fire a missile to be at 9 missiles before fan tune pops. That way, they can still get drops while still firing at fan tune. And unfortunately, Rich getting a little trolled here at the end. He had a nice second round attempt there, but he's going to get slowed here. But he should be able to wrap this fight up here unless he gets trolled by the flame lane. And looks like we got it. Rich has fan tune down with a nice 3-round. Nicely done. I will tell y'all this, for most of the runners of this category, outside of maybe the tip-top guys like Zost and Overfiend, who are the last 2 world record holders of this category, I would say it is way more common to have a 3-round fan tune than a 2-round fan tune. You'd be surprised at how much harder it is to get a 2-round when you only have 10 missiles instead of 15, like any percent new route. So both of these runners, I'm just glad to see them get through. This was certainly positive times for both. And we've got probably about a 20-second differential maybe between them. So far, a great race. Ooh, Rich unfortunately getting a bit of an awkward angle on that entry, and then making it even worse by running into that that atom there. But he does clean up the rest of the room pretty nicely. He need to be careful. I mean, obviously he's got enough health to get past the spiky room, but in particular, excuse me, bowling, but in particular in a race, the simple reality is I've seen way too many people accidentally just mess up like one jump input or something like that in that room and end up dying. So it's always good when you at least have the extra leeway to get hit by 3 different spikes. And in this case, Rich does, so he should be good to go. And Rich getting over the spikes in the bowling area with no major issue. He's good to go here. Whewty looking good on his energy. His supers are fantastic. Power bombs are solid too. Looks like he's going to farm this room maybe for some extra ammo, or maybe he just wants to make sure he doesn't get hit. Does get a bit of a rare, somewhat rare, I would imagine, a power bomb drop there by the pancake. And now he's got even more ammo. So hopefully he'll get by here with only 2 jumps. 1, 2. Oh, wow. He just barely got there. Nicely done. All right, Rich is completing the last few rooms of criteria here. He will not be seeing these rooms again until he is done with all of the bosses and on his way to G4. But that was a very nice unmorph through that door transition, allowing him to avoid landing on that platform there, saving a few frames. Whewty going for that D-boost on the Ripper. Unfortunately, just barely missed. So he's going to run across the ocean. Rich looks like he farmed 1 super, but not going to do another one. He's in really good shape with his supers right now. And he's done with Hellway. And I would imagine that he is going to head straight down to Kraid here. He will pick up no more items along the way. In fact, right now, if you guys take a look, they will not get any more ammo for the rest of the run. They have all the missiles, supers, and power bombs that they're going to get. At this juncture, the only thing left for them to pick up, let's count real quick. They've got 1 energy tank. They have 5 items worth of ammo. So that makes 6 total items. They have gravity, which is 7. Charge beam, 8. Bombs, 9. Morphing ball, 10. So what do we have left to do? We got 2 energy tanks, ice beam, and Varia. So those are the only items left to pick up. Now, I know for sure, or at least I would imagine, in most circumstances, both of these runners are going to pick up this Kraid tank. Technically speaking, depending on how confident you are with Lower Norfair and Ridley, you can go ahead and get your 3rd tank before you even go to Lower Norfair. You could grab the high jump boot tank, for example. Give yourself a lot of leeway. Most runners, once they start feeling comfortable enough, will just grab the Kraid tank, go straight to Lower Norfair, and then either do one of 2 things. Grab their 3rd tank from Ridley, or if they're feeling confident with their energy and execution, they could technically skip the Ridley tank and pick up the Botwoon tank. It's been a while. It's been over a year since I ran this category, like, seriously. So I did a ton of tests on all this stuff. And grabbing Ridley versus Botwoon is actually like extremely, extremely close. So usually I would opt to just get the Ridley tank, so I wouldn't really have to think about any potential problems with energy drops with Ridley or other issues. But they do have to be cognizant if they do skip that. If they decide they want to get the Ridley tank, they'll have to be really cognizant about skipping the Botwoon tank, because if they accidentally got it, they would invalidate the run. Rich was able to dispose of Kraid quite quickly, and now he's going to get ready to exit and head to Upper Norfair. And Whewty, in the meantime, setting up, just barely a little too early on that super. The good news here is, since he's already done wreck ship and has 2 packs of supers, he should be able to fire extra supers here at Kraid. Got a little bit of an awkward hit by that nail there, but now he's wrapped it up, so no problem there. And as mentioned, Rich grabs this energy tank. This room actually serves a dual purpose in this run. Depending on how aggressively you want to run it, let's put it this way. RBO and low ice are, I mean, all categories in a way, but in particular, these categories have a ton to think about in terms of item and I guess ammo management. And so whenever you pick up that crate tank, you get to refill on your power bombs, and then you really have to think about how you want to manage your power bombs moving forward before you head down to Lower Norfair. The cool part about low ice that I like a lot is that the Upper Norfair cleanup is literally one item. So Rich is going to head over here and pick up the ice beam, and after that, he's pretty much good to go to head to Lower Norfair unless he wants to get that safety tank. All right, Rich setting up the ice escape here. Looks like it's good. He's going to get under this gate there. We got a nice high five going here. Whewty is not very far behind. We've got quite a good race here. Whewty's going to also grab his ice beam. And looks like Rich is feeling comfortable. He's only going to run 2 tanks leading into Lower Norfair. So at this juncture, he's just going to start heading that direction. This is one of the rooms that it's not super fun in this race, or excuse me, in this run. You got to get some horizontal bomb jumps there, or some infinite bomb jumps or double bomb jumps to get up that room. And sometimes if you're not on rhythm correctly, it can be a little frustrating. But he did a nice job there. Looks like he's trying to protect his super counts. Ironically, if I were running this, knowing the strats that I would be going for shortly, and especially with trying to skip a farm beforehand, I would be feeling really terrible about only having 1 missile, because missiles actually matter at the beginning, of Lower Norfair. I don't think Rich runs the static low ice worst room in the game, though, so it might not be as big a deal to him. Plus, it looks like he's going to slow down and farm here. So that's a good decision. These guys are pretty much dropping regular missiles 100% after you get filled with energy. So he's in good shape now. And he's going to get ready to enter Lower Norfair. He will need to do a gravity jump here to get in. Since he doesn't have any other movement items like speed booster or anything like that, he can't spark in. And since he doesn't have high jump boots, he's actually going to need to do a few wall jumps. Another reason the Kraid second route is so much more comfortable is that gravity jump has the Various suit to go with it. And so you don't end up having to either lose a ton of health or B, put the gravity suit back on and make a very, much more difficult wall jump off those Namahes. So he's in good shape. He's in. He's got a save going. And Whewty is close behind. Let's see if Whewty can get in. Whewty is also in fantastic shape with his energy and ammo. This is exactly what you would love to see at this juncture. At this point, if I recall what Rich does, looks like he forgot to put his gravity suit on. Glad he noticed that. I think Rich is going to try to do either a freeze of the pirate in the worst room in the game while it's still on the wall. I think he might kill 1 or 2 of the pirates and then do some kind of freeze method. I don't run that strat, so I'm not 100% familiar with how all it works, but I'll just be quiet here for a minute. This is actually one of the coolest parts of this entire run, trying to get through some of these difficult rooms with no movement items. So let's see how Rich does this room. Oh, he's going for it, ladies and gentlemen. Oh my goodness. His version of that is a little bit different than the one that I do, and also a little bit different from the one I think Sloters does, but there's really only small nuance changes that you can do with there. He is in good shape, and wow, that was very impressive. Looks like Whewty had some trouble and is having to head back up to do some refarming here for some energy. It's very unfortunate, but looks like he's got plenty now. Rich has to be careful in this room. It's not a super tough room, but you want to make sure you fully jump over every pirate because they do a lot of damage. But he's in good shape. I would recommend... Ooh, this is a bad room to miss the opening strat on because it ends up being pretty slow. Yeah, you're probably going to take either one or even multiple hits from key hunters. But I would recommend in a race for sure saving it Ridley. Looks like Rich is going to heed that. Good call. And Whewty now up. He's good to go. He'll probably take a save as well. And yes, I just saw the chat there. I do think the ice beam is the best beam. It's just my personal preference. I think it's pretty neat what it allows you to do. Plus, you know, I'm a sucker for the retro. I had NES Metroid growing up, and so obviously ice was very important in that game too. But as you can see, you have only just barely enough power bombs to get through all the rooms correctly. And take a quick look. Rich is now, like, part of the reason you love to come in here with a lot of supers is because this is a huge RNG moment of the run. He needs to kill these metal pirates with 3 supers each. And in a god run, they'll drop a bunch of supers for you. Most of the time, I can tell you, especially if you're on pace, they will not. But you want to get as many drops from them as possible because just trust me on the math, it is never a good idea, mathematically, ever, to go into Ridley without full supers. It's always mathematically correct to farm yourself back up to full. And I can tell you from experience, sometimes when you get in here and you start farming these bugs, they just don't give you supers for a long time, and you're just standing there waiting to get them. So he's going to need to fire 1 super at the boss door, and then he's going to want to come back over here and farm up to full supers. And even if he gets double supers here, I would recommend doing another 1 or 2 farms to get full on regular missiles and energy as well, just because it makes the counts a lot easier. So he had a nice farm there, and he's going to get ready to fight Ridley. This is probably one of the 2 most challenging things of this run. I wonder if Rich has adopted my... there's actually one strat that I invented. It's like the only strat I think I've ever invented in Super Metroid, and it does look like he's going to do it. It's the double ice shield opener on Ridley low ice. Gorgeous. We need to come up with a name for that strat. I've never actually named it. But I will tell you, I do highly recommend the strat. All jokes aside, if anybody's interested in, you know, learning some more about this category, that strat is honestly not very difficult, and it does a lot of damage relative to the resources invested, and it sets you up at a very good position to start the fight, and it's typically risk-free. So I'm a big fan, and it was far superior to any other opener that I tested. So anyway, as you can see, Rich is going to have to move around this room quite differently than you would typically see. You know, most people watch watch runs of like 80% and maybe hundo in Super Metroid. Those fights kind of have a certain movement to them with the high jump boots and the speed booster, but without any movement items, you know, this fight is a lot different and requires you to jump off walls, to not get hit, still get charge shots. So anyway, ooh, that's real bad. Ooh, that's very, very bad. Rich just took a ton of damage there. He's trying to manipulate Ridley to pogo as much as possible, and when he's doing the swoops, he's going to be using those wall jumps to still try to get some shots in. But main thing in a race scenario is just, you know, trying to keep him pogoing as much as possible. This looks like a potential fast swoop. There you go. I don't really know how to explain to y'all when he's going to fast swoop and when he isn't. Let's just say that if you fight Ridley enough, eventually you just sort of instinctively notice certain movement patterns. It's kind of hard to explain. But if Rich were to fire only charge shots here, he would have to hit Ridley 200 times. Luckily, he's going to have to hit him significantly less than that. Each one of those supers is going to do 600 damage, which is 10 supers would be a third of Ridley's health. And then that 1,000 damage he's going to get from the missiles is also significant. And he opened up with over 1,000 worth of damage with the opener that he used. So he's going to wait for Ridley to turn pink, which Ridley has. And then at this juncture, he's going to start trying to figure out how to time in his missiles and supers. He's been doing a much better job of not getting hit after that sort of big energy loss from earlier. And Ridley has, commentator cursed it. But he's also been manipulating Ridley's patterns really well. Want to be careful. You don't want to miss a super. If you miss a super, that's going to end up being, I think it was like 7, a little over 6 charge shots. So kind of a big deal, way more dangerous, especially with Ridley moving so quickly. Sorry to not mention what Whewty's been up to, but it looks like he is also in the Ridley fight as well, doing a great job of manipulating Ridley. As you can see, he hasn't even been hit yet, so that's great. Ridley's moving much faster. If I were Rich, I would unload all these supers now. Very good. And that's it, y'all. We got a dead pelican, and Rich is through. Nicely done. That was a very good fight. Not only was that fight good in terms of just getting through without dying, but that actually, especially given the circumstances, was a pretty fast fight. We've got a few people here in chat who've done at least a decent amount of low percent, and I'm sure all of them would tell you too that if you really put your run under a microscope, you will be surprised at how much time you can gain or lose on a Ridley fight, depending on how good it goes. In fact, once you start kind of running closer to your full potential, if you have a bad Ridley fight in a run, you pretty much can kiss a PB goodbye, because given the sort of more simplified nature of your movement through most of the rest of the game, the boss fights end up being a much bigger chunk of your overall run, which is, it's true in every category that bosses matter, but in this particular category, it's even more so. So Rich does have enough energy to take a hit or two in this room. Let me try to explain something. I don't like to be critical of runners, but I don't like this save. And let me explain why. When he resets this room, this key hunter is going to be above him, the one he already got by. And if you're not careful, even if you dodge him, you can get hit. And plus, it puts these at sometimes an awkward position. Luckily enough, Rich was able to get them over so they can move and not get hit. Personally, this, again, I'm not. I would never tell a runner what they need to do. Obviously their comfort level's the most important thing. But generally speaking, unless you make some really egregious errors in the Three Musketeers room, you're probably going to have enough energy to get hit multiple times and still make it. And sometimes that save can actually put you in a real bad spot. Okay, he took 3 hits in the Three Musketeer room, which did 150 damage, which is not what you want to see, but he's survived, and now he's about to farm back to full. This is where the Kraid's second route potentially loses some time versus the other route, simply because you have to do a farm. Oh, did Whewty just jump through Ridley's tail on the wall? Well, Whewty missed one super there too, which is bad for time and also bad just for danger. Oh, this is not good, dude. Thank goodness. Oh, baby. Of all the times for Ridley not to be a butthole, I'm glad that this is the time that he didn't do it. Okay. Whewty is exiting without picking up this tank. However, I actually kind of like this call in a way, because since he got health bombed by Ridley, he's probably going to need to farm up anyway in the future. So he can do a lot of that farming now and actually, in the meantime, still farm up his energy. And if he does, if he has good strats for the upcoming rooms, he should be fine with 299 energy. Not sure what he's doing here. I'm a bit concerned about this decision. he seems confident, so that's cool with me. But 189 energy right here is, especially in a race, is not overly comfortable, especially considering that you don't have full control over all the manipulations. So oh, that's a good point. He can just get to Fire Flea, but he's got to get to Fire Flea. He's about to take, what, 6 damage here or something like that? 7? So he's still over the threshold. He can get hit twice in this room and still get to Fire Flea. Plus, you know, I'm not familiar with every single manipulation, but he kind of entered this room a little awkwardly, and I don't know what impact that had on the key hunters. Oh, he's trying to use a power bomb to... Oh, this is not good, dude. Okay, back to Rich for a minute. Rich is having to try to set up some gravity jumps here, which it sounds fairly easy, but it's actually can be pretty tricky. You're never guaranteed to get your gravity jumps correctly, but he does manage to get up Everest, and now he's through the room. Whewty needs to be very careful. Please don't get hit. Thank you. And at this point, if he doesn't do anything awkward, he should be able to make it to the Fire Flea's energy tank here. Very nice. All right. Whewty's alive, ladies and gentlemen. He's good to go. One thing I will, you know, this is, again, I'm speaking from a lot of experience. You know, I've run this category more than any other category for me. One thing I do like about getting the Ridley tank in this scenario and then, you know, having that be your final tank is you actually can get away with some really sloppy movement or even unfortunate situations with RNG on the way out. As long as you just keep moving, most of the time you're going to make it. As long as you just don't slow down or do anything really drastic. That's why I'm a big fan of it. Rich is very close to finishing Batoon here. Nicely done. He will not be able to pick up this energy tank, but it's irrelevant. He's going to get a lot of energy here. And then on top of that, he's going to be full on energy way quicker than he'll refill on supers, which he's going to do here in the post-Batoon fight, getting ready for the Dragon fight. So he's going to stop here and farm a lot of these bugs. I've mentioned this on commentary before, but for those of you that might not be as familiar with some of the nuances of Super Metroid speedrunning, you'll note that Richman right now is actually firing, or until just the end here, he was firing regular missiles at those bugs, which is actually the correct thing to do. If he were firing ice shots, it would take 2 shots each, one to freeze and then one to kill. Since he was only worried about farming supers, energy and regular missiles are a tier 1 drop. Super missiles and power bombs are a tier 2 drop. So a basic explanation would be that being full on a tier 1 drop does not affect tier 2. So even if you're full on regular missiles or energy, that's not going to affect your chances of getting a super from a creature. But the reverse is true. Tier 2 can actually have an impact on tier 1. So since he has no reason to worry, killing those bugs a little bit faster with the regular missiles is a better play. Rich gonna destroy all of the turrets here. Technically, you can do this fight leaving 1 or even 2 up. I usually leave 1 up. It's a little bit safer than leaving 2 up, a little less complex, but still adds some potential time save from keeping your missiles. This fight can be kind of awkward. Rich wants to use pseudo screws as much as he can, but at the same time, if Dragon... See, this is kind of bad because Rich actually got hit 3 times, but only got 1 pseudo screw. So 2 of those were blanks. He just unmorphed, unfortunately. But if Dragon swoops too much and you do too many pseudo screws, you can actually be the one that ends up suffering later by not having enough energy to finish the fight safely. So what he's trying to do here is essentially keep his missile count below 10 whenever she's gooing, and then clear as much goo as possible so that he gets some missile drops, and then fire as many regular missiles as he can when she, is done with the goo. So the majority of the damage in this fight comes from traditionally missiles, although, the amount of supers that you use has a big impact too. And if you happen to be lucky enough to get some super drops in the fight, that can be very influential. Whewty does a nice job of getting his gravity jump, and he is through Mount Everest. Rich wrapping this fight up, and he's going for the bomb jumps, ladies and gentlemen. And at this point, he's probably going to give up on it and just collect the drops and do a gravity jump. Dragon quite friendly with the drops there. Looks like he got 5 super missiles. If you were on a PB run, that would be fantastic drops by Dragon. Whewty, I think, accidentally stood up when he was trying to get that that ice clip, so he's gonna have to get back into position, crouch, and now try again. There we go. Unfortunately, I think he was trying to get another super before this fight. He didn't get it, so he, optimally he's going to use 3 regular missiles and then 9 supers, but hopefully, yeah, Botwoon gives a friendly pattern here. Whewty off to a great start. Nails all 9 and then wraps up the fight with 3 regular missiles. Botwoon was extremely friendly, and Whewty did a fantastic job of executing there. Let me tell you, from experience, I have probably had more runs ruined by Botwoon than even some of the major bosses. If the Botwoon fight doesn't go correctly, or he gives you one of the worst patterns that you can't really one round, it can get really ugly really fast, because if you miss a few shots, you just barely have enough ammo, and now your charge shots are only doing 90 each, which is very little. So nicely done there by Whewty. Rich getting trolled by the snail there a little bit. I think all Super Metroid runners hate snails. But yeah, Rich is done with all of his boss fights except for Mother Brain. He is going to head back into Mount Everest. There's multiple ways to get through this room. You're trying to do a gravity jump up to the top. You can do a crouch jump right there on that hill, or you can do a sort of run. It's hard to say if he's going to make it. It didn't look good to me that momentum, the amount of momentum he had when he jumped, didn't look like a really good amount. It's very particular. I don't really know how to explain it other than to say you can't be moving. You have to be very particular about where you jump and what momentum you have when you're trying to do this this horizontal version of the gravity jump. I still think he jumped a little early. Okay, now he's going to go for the crouch jump. I think you can only make this one. You have a 3-frame window to get the jump correctly. He's not going to make it there. He probably was on frame 4 or 5 there. But if you do this one correctly, you don't even see your jump when it's fading out. All right, that one looked a little bit better. If you can get a down grab, all right, nicely done. I like that strat Rich used at the end of that room there. You can do a double bomb jump and then an unmorph, and you don't have to do a third bomb. It's pretty nice. You expand your hitbox enough to trigger the door transition. Whewty in the middle of his Dragon fight using some charge shots. Again, let me explain something real quick. Obviously, whatever people are comfortable with, they should do. I would never specifically try to tell someone, what they have to do. But I will tell you that charge shots in this particular fight, if I were coaching someone, I would coach them to not use them. I would focus instead on trying to use as much of your resources as possible for pseudo screws, regular missiles, and then getting in position to do other ice shields if you can. But it's certainly not bad. I mean, it still does damage. It's just there's a few complications that go with it potentially. and oftentimes you end up either missing or getting hit because of it. But as always, I would not recommend someone try something in a race that they typically don't do. So I think it's good that Whewty's doing what has been successful for him in the past. Rich getting close to G4 here. He's in low percent situations. He's in really good shape ammo wise. His energy's okay. If I were him, just to be safe, I'd probably super the first Metroid, then group the next 3, and then kind of adjust from there. Obviously, he's going to want to end with at least 8 regular missiles, which that's usually not the problem. But you got to have 10 at the end of the Metroid rooms, or you're in rough shape. If you have 9, you can still survive that, but it's going to be slow. If you have 8, I don't think you can at all. Whewty finishes up his Dragon fight, and he gravity jumps out, I believe, as well, and he's rolling. And looks like he doesn't have any supers, which is a bit of a problem. Kind of low on missiles and energy as well. There's a few options along the way. You can, if you're really low on energy or really low on power bombs, you actually can refill on those in some of these sand pits from the sponges. Especially if you have 4 or 5 power bombs. There's a strat you can do where you can kind of kill all of them on the screen, and then the first 2 that you're standing on top of will drop power bombs, and then the rest of them will trigger frames later, like large health. I don't know if Whewty will utilize that or not. He might actually not care. He might just do a ship refill before G4. Okay, Rich didn't really get what he wanted there. Let's hopefully he'll use regular missiles again. I would imagine he knows that he's in the lead. Another bad room, only gets 1 super. His energy is completely irrelevant because there will not be a baby skip. But he wants to be really careful. I mean, if you're going for a PB, you might play a little bit more aggressively. But here, okay, wow, he actually got enough supers, but not enough regular missiles after that second Metroid. But anyway, he's good to go now. If he uses regular missiles here, even if they troll, he can't really lose. So he's in good shape. But yeah, if you were going for a PB, you might play those rooms a little bit more aggressively. In a race scenario in which you have a lead, obviously you want to be careful. The Metroids have a knack for not being in line with the mathematical probabilities. Whewty, unfortunately, barely missing that crouch jump. And if anybody in the chat can update me, you can let me know. I don't remember every tiny detail, but I do think this is a 3-frame window. I think if you're even 1 frame after that or beyond that, you're gonna miss or not have enough momentum to get up there. There's technically 3 different versions of that jump that can technically make it. Rich running into the baby Metroid to get his health low and has now been eaten. So his energy is at 0. He's not going to refill yet. He's actually going to use 5 missiles to open this red door, and then 3 to open up the boss door. And I say this without memeing at all. You can die in this room. Legitimately, you can die in this room. I've done it, unfortunately, more than once. Rich going for the faster strat where he actually fires the missile back to the Ghidorah off screen. I imagine that he got it because you can hear the sound of it dying, and if he didn't hear it, he would probably have turned around, so nicely done. Saves a few frames. And at this point, he's going to refill, and in most race scenarios, people are going to save before Mother Brain. So you'll note that if you look at his ammo, he's going to do a normal sort of ice Zeb skip. However, he can't shoot it from the platform. He's going to have to get below because he doesn't have a wave beam. But I like the refill here by Whewty, by the way, especially considering he has 0 supers. But after that, note that Rich cannot miss a super missile. If any of the turrets get any of his supers, that's the end of the run. He can miss 1 regular missile. Technically, 1 regular missile can get eaten. But beyond that, he has to nail everything else. So hopefully the turrets will cooperate. Hopefully he gets a clean Zeb skip, and we'll see what happens. Note that Rich waited for that first Rinka to get by. That's because he wanted to use the iframes from the frozen Rinka, which do, 0 damage to Samus. He wants to maintain as much of his health as possible. Oh no, he got a little nervous because of that turret and then ended up jumping and firing a super directly into the glass. So he's going to have to reset that. Luckily, he's ahead by enough that it might not matter. But yeah, what I was saying is I think he landed in the acid a little bit there. So note, he'll probably do the same thing again here. He's going to want to protect himself. It's a little bit slower to wait for that Rinka to pass here on the Zeb skip, but I do like the call in this scenario for sure. All right, and we are through Mother Brain 1, ladies and gentlemen. Note that he has power bombs equipped. He is going to start this fight off presumably with 3 ice shields, which if he nails all of them will do 12 shots worth of damage, because the ice shield SBA, all of those shield particles are actually just normal ice beam shots. Unfortunately, he had to do a double jump for that first ring, and so he wasn't able to get a third one in. So he got about 8 shots in, and now he's about, I don't know, maybe 8 shots deep. He's somewhere getting close to 20 shots here. This fight is going to last 200 shots. At shot 150, obviously, Mother Brain will have taken 75% damage, and after that, any damage will cause her to go into her red beam phase. Unfortunately, she gave Rich a pretty tough pattern there. This fight, like, individual sequences of this fight are not overly difficult. The challenge is maintaining your focus for a long period of time and not overreacting to any of her patterns. Luckily, right there, Rich was able to avoid getting hit by the French fry and then jump in the middle of that bomb to not take damage. But earlier, he jumped straight into one of those French fries that she had. So this fight is it is a lot more dangerous than people think, even though it might not really be individually all that hard. It's just trying to combo everything together for long periods of time. It's quite the endurance fight. So at this juncture, I think I'm just going to kind of be quiet and let you guys enjoy the drama of Rich's fight and Whewty trying to catch up to start his. Ooh, that was actually a bit of a tough onion ring pattern. I'm glad he was able to dodge that. Oh my god, that was very close. Onion rings are actually the most dangerous part of this whole fight. Okay, Rich is in red beam phase. Obviously, if he gets hit by a red beam, he's gonna, lose the run, as any Super Metroid run would with only 3 tanks. However, ironically, this part of the fight is usually, and I'm not trying to commentate or curse Rich here, but it is usually the easier part of the fight. Getting through the first 75% of the fight is usually much more difficult. She can still do some crazy stuff here, like right now she's dropping that bomb. Sometimes she'll drop a bomb and also shoot some onion rings or a french fry and then a red beam or something. It can get real complicated. But most of the time, if she's just standing back and shooting these red beams or maybe just dropping bombs, it's pretty lenient. So most of the time, like if I get killed by Mother Brain 2 in a low ice run, usually it happens in the first 150 shots instead of the last 50. But you just never know. Hey, we're through. Rich has finished Mother Brain. And we'll now get to chill for a little bit before he starts his Mother Brain 3 and escape sequence. But nicely done to Rich. Outside of some really bizarre circumstance, that's going to lock the race up for him. And a really nice run outside of just that accidental super shot that missed on Mother Brain 1. But I got to tell you, anytime you're doing a low ice run, especially with like an audience, you know, like in a race or a marathon or something like that, whenever you see Mother Brain chill out at the end right before that rainbow beam, it's a good feeling. So I'm sure Rich is feeling quite nice right now. Whewty's having a nice fight. Looks like he's taking a few pieces or a few hits of damage. Hopefully he will not run into too much more trouble. One thing I will also mention, I think most people probably know this, but just in case you don't, Mother Brain does actually respond to regular beam shots. She doesn't take any damage, but if she is moving forward and you hit her with a regular beam shot, that will still trigger her to back up. So there are actually some times, oh my God, Whewty, what a gamer. That was a sick dodge of those onion rings. But if she's moving forward, you can actually hit her with a regular shot if you don't have enough time to get a charge shot in, and it can still be effective. All right, Rich gonna get ready to start his Mother Brain 3. It is actually a good bit different in this category because you don't have the high jump boots, so it's a lot harder to get any kind of horizontal shots. He might just do angle shots the entire time with 3 at a time, which I think is still very effective. And notice he's not even really jumping like the full duration or the full distance of his jump, trying to keep a good rhythm here. That's a very nice Mother Brain 3 actually for this category. Well done. And even though the escape will be slower, there are several rooms here that will be slower because you don't have the speed booster to do any shine sparks. It's actually not, you know, drastically, it's not going to be like, you know, minutes slower, but he's going to have to take a different path in the first room with pirates in it here in just a minute, and then he's also going to have to wall jump a lot more when he gets to the climb. So Whewty's probably got to be getting pretty close to that threshold here. I like the morph-unmorph there to give himself enough momentum or time to land on top of that bomb to take 0 damage. Big fan of that. Got to deal with a lot of lag in this category too in this escape sequence because you just can't, you know, move fast enough to avoid some of the wall jumps and movement. But Rich making his way up here pretty cleanly, no big issue. And notice here in the last room, he's going to climb up the left side. I find this very cool. Oh, Whewty, oh my God, he just got hit by some onion rings, but luckily he is not under 301 energy at the moment. Please, for the love of God, let nothing else bad happen during this sequence for Whewty. Rich is in the parlor, and this part is actually pretty comfy because you can just run the same strats you did at the beginning of the game. A lot of times I and other people, if they shoot anything in that room, they'll forget and fire off a shot. But Rich is going to move to 3-1 in this tournament with a first place finish in this race and an official SRL time of 58 minutes and 19 seconds. A very nice time considering the circumstances in terms of it being a race and the saves and even the reset. So nicely done. And oh no, Whewty barely mistimed that unmorph there. and going to drop below the threshold. So that was very unfortunate. But it looks like he's going to fire it back up here. I like the perseverance. And let's take a look at Rich's in-game time, which actually, ironically, will be unaffected by the reset. And some of the saves and extra door transitions won't factor in as well. I think world record's at 36. And he's got a 43. Nicely done. Okay, getting back to Whewty's run here. Looks like he's able to get Mother Brain 1 down. And he's going to try again on this Mother Brain 2 fight for 200 shots. I really gotta say, not only as a tournament organizer, but just also as a Super Metroid runner and a fan of Super Metroid racing and tournaments, I gotta give a huge shout out here to Richman and Whewty. I think they even possibly, unless I'm mistaken, agreed. Holy cow, that dodge, Whewty. My goodness. I think they agreed in advance to run this. Big props to be willing to do this in a race scenario and not sort of shying away from the category. Real big fan. In fact, I don't think we'll see that many people run this category in this tournament, simply because of, you know, some of the variance and the difficulty and just people's inexperience, which is understandable. But I do appreciate both of these guys being game to put on a show for us. So I do want to thank them. It looks like we are joined by Rich. Rich, how you doing?
I'm all right, man. Right hand cramping up pretty bad. Mother Brain is not a fun fight.
No, it's not the most fun, and you are right. It is definitely tough on the hands, but congratulations on a really nice run. You had a lot of great execution across the board. In particular, I was very impressed by your Ridley fight. Tell us a little bit about how you felt about your run, you know, some of the things you thought went well, some of the things you hope to improve on. Just tell us what your experience was.
So I think the biggest thing in preparing for this was kind of thinking about what safeties I wanted to take inside the race, and outside of the added safeties, I think, except for the gravity jump to get back to on the way to G4, I think most of the run was really solid.
Yeah, for sure. And just for the record, that jump is BS. So don't feel bad. I think that happens to everybody pretty much all the time. In fact, you know what I find terrible about that room is that technically both of the ways you can get up there with a gravity jump both suck. So.
Yeah, I always did the left side jump, and then I played around with the crouch jump one, and I was like, it's not easier, but it's not harder. They both just, they don't feel great. There's a very small window to get your paws, and the jump has to be pretty correct, or you're not gonna make it up.
Yeah, you're right. And I think the crouch jump, I was saying it earlier in commentary, I could be corrected, but if I recall, I think it's 3 frames. Like once you press the pause button, you have like a 3-frame window to get it to where you have the momentum. So it's tough. But yeah, in particular, man, tell us about your Ridley. I thought your Ridley was really smooth, other than you had one small hiccup where you kind of got stuck like in the acid and was hoping he wouldn't still hit you with his tail. But other than that, I mean, you really executed quite well. So how'd you feel about that?
Yeah, going into the Ridley, I spent probably a good hour working on that and Dragon yesterday, and the fights that I wasn't living through were really bad, but most of the other fights I was getting through with 150 plus energy. So I was confident starting the fight, and as soon as I got the opener, everything just kind of clicked into place. It was very natural until the little acid dip, and he took forever to swoop, and then he hit me anyways, and I was like, wow, that was a terrible idea. I should have just got out and taken the hit, but managed to keep my focus and close out the rest of the fight.
Well, it's funny because I can't necessarily. Well, hold on. Before I answer that, congratulations to Whewty wrapping up that Mother Brain 2 fight. So Whewty is going to finish this race. Nicely done, Whewty. Great perseverance, especially to go through like 150 something shots in the last fight, and then unfortunately get hit by some onion rings, or I can't remember exactly what it was that killed him. But he's in good shape now, and he's going to finish this run shortly. But as it was happening, when you were standing in the acid, I instinctively knew what you were trying to do. And I was like, okay, I actually like this call. You know, he's probably going to take roughly around the same amount of energy or whatever. And then Ridley just swoops as far down as he possibly can and hits you right in the face, which is terrible.
Yeah.
So I did like the on the fly thinking. But yeah, man, you did some great stuff in this run. Also, I was impressed with your fan tune. It's very difficult to get a 2-round, but you had a real swaggy D boost during that section as well. So
Yeah, I like that pattern a lot. I can't even remember which pattern it is, but every time he's swooping up from the bottom, I'll usually go for that D boost if I'm over 100, because you hit the ground just in time to start the Doppler, and it's really smooth. I'm actually still not sure. I know I missed the item switch. I was too slow on it, but I think I was still a missile shy. It was probably for the best that didn't go through, but I'm not. I'll have to watch it back.
yeah, well, I think this race, this win puts you at 3-1. Is that correct?
Yes.
Which is a fantastic record this deep into the tournament. I believe you were 2-0 and then lost your last match, last round. Who did you play last round?
Last week was. I can't even. Oh, I did a triple bingo with a real cutie.
Yeah, and as we all know, Cutie is a very talented runner, one of the best in this tournament. So certainly a tough matchup there for anyone. But yeah, you're looking really good, man. I think you've got a very solid shot to make the playoffs. I've kind of bragged on you every time that I've done commentary, but this multi-category tournament kind of hits you in a sweet spot because you're familiar with all the runs and you've done a lot of them, to a very solid level. So congratulations. I appreciate you being willing to do low ice, and I'm glad you got to do it at least once, since that's what you were hoping for.
Yeah, my biggest gripe about the last one is that I never got to do a low ice race. That's actually the first time I've ever raced it, and it's a whole different level of intensity. Like, my heart started pounding 50 shots into Mother Brain, and I was like, oh man, this is crazy. Like,
yeah, it's really fun.
I'm pumped right now.
Yeah, racing is different, man, especially when you start doing these crazy challenge categories, like, trying to do an RBO run or a low ice run when there's actually, like, you can't just reset, it's a different experience, but that's the fun of it. So congratulations, and if there's anything else you'd like to add before we wrap up Whewty's run, I'll let you do so.
No, I'm good. Oh, he's in the escape already. Okay.
Yeah, he's showing us that left side climb, which is always fun. Apparently, I don't understand how to do commentary controls correctly because I was under the, well, anyway, there's a logical explanation for what I just did. But anyway, sorry that I cut away from Whewty's audio a little early. I thought it was going to be synced up, but it wasn't. But anyway, Whewty is on the landing site, and he is going to finish with an official SRL time of 1 hour, 8 minutes, 4 seconds. GG to Whewty, finishing up that low percent ice run. And thank you to Whewty for a fantastic race. That was a lot of fun to watch and a lot of fun to commentate. Hopefully we can get him in here for an interview. Oh, Rich, are you still here?
Yes.
I have one more thing to ask you. How difficult is it to run this game with every button mapped to X?
Oh man, I don't know. That's a problem that I would expect from the SD2 SNES, but that was actually my physical Super Metroid cartridge, and I have no idea what happened.
Wait, that was a SNES, like a regular Super
Yeah,
Metroid cartridge?
that's my
Holy
actual
moly!
Super Nintendo or Super Metroid cartridge. I've
I've
never
never
seen
seen that either.
anything like it.
Wow, that's crazy. Looks like we are joined by none other than Whewty himself. Whewty, GG, how you doing and how do you feel?
What's going on, Kit? I am doing good. I am alive. I died one time, and I'm happy with that. Hey, Richmond, I don't think I can hear you if you're talking. Yeah, it was a really good game. Great job to Richmond. He beat my PB, so I cannot expect to. I can't expect to win if he beats my best time. So, but I was happy with that. I mean, what are you gonna do? The Mother Brain fight was really stressful. Really, my whole game plan was I'm not gonna beat him unless he dies. So slow and steady and don't die. And then I had my fights. They were kind of reversed. Like my Ridley fight, I started off really sloppy, or I started off really good actually, and then at the end it sort of started to fall apart a little bit. And then in Mother Brain started off really sloppy, and then I almost lived, and then the ketchup phase kind of screwed me up. I'm not very good with the ketchup phase when she starts throwing in burgers and onion rings. That's like the hardest part, is when you're expecting the ketchup and you've got to dodge another variable.
Well, it's funny, Whewty, because there's a lot of good things about your race tonight. I mean, you were just a few shots away, and maybe some, unfortunate patterns by Mother Brain away from finishing this run without dying, which is always very impressive. But dude, you had some legitimately sick dodges on Mother Brain too. Like there were a couple times where she threw some real awkward angle like onion rings at you, and I was like, oh, he's getting hit for sure. And then somehow you would like manage to get over it or under it. So
yeah,
that was really
cool.
I
know the one. I think I turned into a ball and rolled under a slew of onion rings, and I really thought I'm like, yeah, this is definitely it. So I bet you we're thinking about there was another one too. And I bet you we're thinking about the exact same one, because I have no idea how I lived through that. There was one or two where it was like, oh my gosh, I should have just taken 4 onion rings.
But well, there was one that you let go of jump at the perfect time, and then morphed and unmorphed and still got over the bomb. And then there was another one where you literally like turned into a ball and rolled forward, which was really awesome. I don't know if you remember that one, but that was probably the sickest.
That one was. I think I laid some bombs down there on the ground while I was at it. That's how you know I was freaking out, because I'm hitting all the buttons on the controller. But yeah, there was one too where I think I like took a French fry through my hair or something, and like just let go a jump at the exact right moment, and that was a little that was Monka-esque for sure too. But again, I'm just glad I lived. Again, I practiced a couple runs, and nothing that happened in my runs happened here, so that's good. I made it over. I got the HBJ pretty fast. I was stressing out about that a little bit, because normally I'm pretty good at it, but sometimes I take 3 minutes, and that'll get me not thinking very straight. But
yeah, I feel your pain on that. I was relieved for both of y'all that y'all got over the moat very quickly. So that was great. But before we wrap this up, I just want to tell you, I really for real appreciate the fact that the two of you guys were game enough to do this to begin with. Rich was talking earlier about how running low ice is stressful enough, but then trying to do it in a race with people watching and stuff is like another level of stress, but at the same time fun. So it was very cool for you guys to do this. I really enjoyed watching it. And, Rich is a really phenomenal opponent, as are you. You're sitting at 2-2, but that is by no means out of the playoffs. So I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys do in the next round. So do you have anything you'd like to add before we wrap this up?
No, I got nothing. GG to Rich. He deserved to win, and he had a really good run. And that's pretty much all I got. I mean, it wasn't. I felt like, I mean, he vetoed GT Classic. He told me he was going to, and I cannot do 100%. So it was low ice, and I'm glad that I'm able to do it, because I'm not a big fan of 100%, and I'm glad it's out of the pools for week 5 and 6. But
Yeah, I feel you.
It was the best race for I had the best chance of winning. I think it was my best chance even over GT Classic, I feel. Because you can't win, you can't live through every mother brain. So there was always a chance he was going to die.
That is true. And in categories like low ice and RBO, I mean, honestly, it doesn't really matter how good you are, how experienced you are. There's still that chance of just one small mistake or a bad pattern ending your run. So I like the thought process. But from an organizer point of view, not that I'm, downing on all the hundo races or anything. Is perfectly fine. I love watching any race, but it was cool to get something, that we haven't seen yet in the tournament. I know that we only had one other low ice race up to this point, and it happened like a few hours ago, but unfortunately it wasn't restreamed. So it was cool for us to finally get one of these up here on the board.
Yeah, GG. It was a lot of fun. Definitely a very stressful to do in a race setting for sure. Because I cannot. No one's doing Mother Brain 2 in low ice while they're watching the restream and seeing where their opponent is and watching if their opponent's dead. So on my screen, when I started the Mother Brain fight, I think Richmond had like 44 health, and I didn't see catch-up yet. So I'm like, all right, minimize this tab and just do your thing and not pay attention, and hopefully he will be dead. And then I looked over. I did not minimize live split or the IRC, and then I saw him finish during, like, I think I might have been in close to catch-up phase or something. I was like, oh well, he won. Let's just try to live. But it kind of, even that is enough to throw you off just a little bit. So
that makes sense.
If I'm not hyper-focusing, I'm not going to live through Mother Brain 2.
Cool, man. Well, I just speaking from me, I obviously, run whatever you have fun with, but I look forward to you doing more low ice in the future. I know I've watched a lot of your runs in the past, so always cool to see. But GG, man. We'll see you in round, number 5. Rich, you have anything you'd like to add before we wrap this up?
Just GG, Whewty. Honestly, like, if you hadn't taken the death where you took the death, I mean, that would have been right at an hour, which is honestly a killer race time for
it would. I mean, it would have been. I was like 4 minutes behind my PB, so it would have been like a 103. But okay. I'll take that 100% of the time. I was trying to be safe, so
yeah,
I was not expecting to PB at all.
Because I only caught bits here and there where, I mean, running this game, you don't get a lot of free time to watch something else. But every time I looked over, you were just the clean movement. You had a really solid opening to Ridley. I think you played really well, and I really appreciate the chance to run low percent with you. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that reminds me, that Ridley fight at the end there, I had 25 health, and I was in a ball, and he came down real fast, and I thought I was dead. I thought I was dead at Ridley. I was so relieved when he picked me up. His tail was really close to where his claw was, and I thought there was no way I was going to live.
Yeah, we got fortunate on that one. I was worried too, but I was very happy to see him pick you up.
Yeah.
So GG, guys. Thanks again. It was awesome to watch. Before we get out of here, ladies and gentlemen, let me remind you about the bottom right of the screen here. We do have some prizes being provided to this tournament. It's sponsored by Balls Guarana and Mega Cat Studios, which I'm sure you guys will, if you haven't already, you'll see some commercials for their games and stuff on the Speed Gaming channels. Looks really cool. So we want to thank them for providing a cool prize pool for this tournament. And I think that's going to do it for us here at Speed Gaming 6 for the night. Right before this race began, my new puppy got into a large mud puddle thing outside, and so I had to spend my my 15 minutes prior to this race trying to clean her up. So I'm going to go see if she's dried off, and with that being said, I guess we'll see y'all next shower. Have a nice night.